That was really scary. I'd like to introduce Brian Dedora, who will be reading from his new Teksteditions book, edited by Richard Trular, Lot 351. Brian Dedora is the author of several chapbooks and other neat things. His novel memoir, A Slice of Voice at the Edge of Hearing, was a finalist for both the Relit Award and the George Riga Prize, and that was followed by another, quote, audacious experiment in narrative, unquote, A Few Sharp Sticks. And I'd just like to read a quote from Lola Tostevin about Lot 351. Bidding for items at estate sales gives the impression of bidding for a slice of history and origin. Lot 351, Dedora's visceral response to Bruce Pantopon's extraordinary text, not only extends the past into the present act of writing, it creates a perfectly homogeneous book, a continuum of traces into the future, a truly haunting reading experience. Brian Dedora.
Been decrying privately to friends and other writers about writers getting up and doing a sort of a stand-up comic shtick. And I thought to myself, well, why don't they write something for that space? So I have. There are two ways to engage any given thing. Scout around the outside to insert yourself in, or jump into the middle to work yourself out. Being Canadians, we engage in doubt. Isn't that much better than a stick? I hope. Lot 351, let me set it up for you, and we will get into the Pantopon text. Wandering into a preview for an estate sale in a third-rate auction house where I became intrigued at the leftovers of a life. All those oh so necessary things bought and given for anniversaries, birthdays, Christmases, with their attached expressions of delight and surprise, still lingering like bygone scents of rose, wisteria, and lily of the valley. Sets of Edwardian patterned bone china for dining tables no longer suited to smaller rooms. Pressed and cut glass cake plates, bonbon dishes, ashtrays, cutlery assortments, boxes of whatnots, toast racks, brass candlesticks, lidded serving dishes, and plated photograph frames. Gathered into lots, groups of string-tied books, brown furniture, some genre paintings and sunburned watercolors. And sitting on a late Victorian sideboard, lot number 351, a sheaf of typescript tied with a rubber band holding enough interest to sign up for a paddle number and enter the bidding after inquiring where this manuscript, the disjointed rift of its apparent modernity set against these dated remains, was found. Stuffed into one of the drawers of the sideboard was the answer. Research had been done on the name without references found. The Opposite Number by Bruce Pantopon. A bid I won for $20 without competition on November 12th, 1974. So we get into Pantopon's manuscript. We're in part 2 here. I'm just going to read some excerpts this evening from Pantopon's manuscript. There are 5 gestural abstract watercolors in the room. One of them moves from ochre with a green overlay into red, so water they fan and blend with the ochre leaves off, which pulls you to deeper reds with a slight pause of bare paper before the onslaught of the red and black center sent darker by flashes of yellow, hints of orange. I could scan areas where orange, green, and red hold against white, involve myself in the relation of three small circles, or roam back where yellow, orange, and red circle the deep, where I fall again into the central furnace. But what about that furnace metaphor? What actually does that mean, being it's a construction which itself connotes meaning to the writer in the manner of a code, not necessarily meaningful in the same way to a reader? Are there flames and heat in the manner of a hell, something personal, a burning? Is it an expediency to describe a painterly marking by employing words? One has to remember a quite specific language was evolved to discuss abstraction, such that the terminology used was neutral enough to not influence a particular viewer's interpretation of the abstract on view, which hung just above the level of the typewriter, sitting on the desk, such that when typing it could be viewed by merely glancing above the work at hand, especially when a pause from this present labor was required in a complete break, free from writerly thought. Caught with my holes exposed, to have to go through it, with no full rush of words to put it down, and don't seem adequate, hardly adequate. A man I knew, now know unsayable. Unsayable? Do we believe that's true? Only as say, but not the unawareness of feelings, despite the lockjaw to actually say it. And would you, once rolling, begin to descend to the most vertical of human endeavor, cave into the most intimate chambers of your being and break down the bricked up niches? And once rolling, feel the rush from your balls up, or the divine fulcrum if you're on the women's team, as the locomotion propelled upward with the same head of steam as you suppressed it, pushed into hiding with your own body to carry, expressed in hot on your cheek tears and string jewels of snot and the gulping of breath as deep as your first scream. With this duende that begins its roar from the soles of your feet, quiver up the muscles of your leg, flood to the freedom of your relaxed pelvis, wash a tide in the pathways of your entrails to swell your lungs, to blood gorge your beating heart, oh do not be still my beating heart, and surge upwards, pushing past the constrictions of your neck, to brain blast a tide of relief, surfing on the waves of dopamine, because you said it. It took me a long time to understand I was a soloist. I first noticed in an external way, watching races, not sprinters, although they were exciting, but long-distance runners. Not cross-country, but on a track where they have to complete 10, maybe 12 circuits, where they're only outrunning themselves. Watch runners approaching the finish line, now within sight, and they were going, bringing them up and putting them down, their legs, chest heaved, the look on their faces, lips blowing in and out, arms bent, pumping like steam trains, the push of the chest to snap the line, and running on to break stride, given over completely to the bellow of their lungs. And I am overwhelmed by tears at the fragility of this so human thing, the aloneness of it, the contest with yourself. I prefer the late Beethoven piano sonatas, especially numbers 30 and 31, Opus 109 and Opus 110. I listened to them on vinyl, played by Jörg Damas on Beethoven's own piano, the 1825 Conrad Graf, which frame is made entirely of wood with smaller hammers covered, not in felt, but thin layers of leather and equipped with the Viennese action, which permits a direct transmission from key to hammer. The sound is unlike the modern piano, which loses overtones and the different characters of the registers. The Graf's bass is sonorous and powerful, the middle cool and clear. The high treble sometimes resembles the xylophone. Problems in articulation, which are present with the modern piano, do not exist with the Conrad Graf. Tempi, dynamics, and tone, everything results spontaneously, where in 109 he abandons traditional sonata form, and where in 110 he plays out his deafness for all to hear. I am not a horizontal person, although at times I have to, as I am in this world with those who will die before me, those who will die after me, and those of my span who will die with me. I am more a vertical person, straight down, straight ahead, myself a soloist, who, when I hear 109 played, or the finale, a set of 6 variations, an andante con variazioni, which restores the slow tempo along with the substance of the theme, becoming lost in a long gathering climax of trills and arpeggios, where quarters become 8s, become 16ths, become 30 seconds, taking the piano to its very limits so that it's in danger of total physical collapse. But with telling effect, the theme is reconstituted in all its simplicity, and I am taken beyond, far beyond, where no concert hall audience becomes an intrusion, to a place where finally I am at last alone, floating in a warm bath of results on a midnight clear. Part of Pantapon's manuscript has to do with an unfulfilled relationship. And I'm just going to read the last little bit of that. I wanted it to happen that way, and it could have. He was laying on the couch in front of the driftwood fire and had given me a photo of himself with some other guys who wanted to form a rock band. He had, in the photo, his shirt off. We talked about his appeal. I leaned across him to get a cigarette. He asked, "Is it now?" All I had to do was say, "Yes, it's now. Let's unbutton that shirt and check you out." I didn't say anything. Couldn't say anything. So afraid that all I wanted was right there. He was there and asking, and I was shying away, feeling awkward and thin. How could he desire me? I don't like myself. Can't he see? Everything I wanted, what he wanted, I couldn't say. Lean over, undo his buttons, undo ourselves. There is such silence, relentless movies. I do my best in darkened